on the uptake. All right, I think
Yes.
we are live now. So
Okay, there we go.
welcome.
Now you can just chit chat about what John wants me to do.
He wants the other Allison back,
Which one?
the one that spoke last week or a
The
couple weeks
fake one?
ago.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. That's wonderful.
Ed says I'm still quiet. Hold on.
You sound
Did I
pretty
hit it?
good to me, but
Oh, my input's going down. Uh-oh. I wonder
oh,
if
you've
it's
got that auto thing on.
yeah. I wonder if I
Too
do.
loud.
Too
Too
loud?
loud. Yeah, you just cranked yourself back up, but
I wonder why it changed. No,
something
I'm
changed.
adjusting it in sound source, but it is going down. That's got to be Discord.
Is it Discord? I'm not listening in Discord, Steve. I'm listening in Edge. I'm listening in StreamYard.
Really? I didn't
Check
think
StreamYard.
StreamYard had auto.
Let's take a look. Let's go to audio. Automatically adjust microphone volume under settings.
So when did that happen? Let me see.
Name the movie, Steve, or the show.
Hold on.
Something's changed.
Yeah, that
was it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're going to talk about this next week or in a couple of weeks. Probably one of the last interviews, but can I show him this, Steve?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so watch if you're watching the video, and Aaliyah, I'll explain it to you. I actually got to show this to Chelsea Cook, who's also blind, and I let her hold it, and that was more exciting. I've got a little packet here called the Wonder Packs, and it's maybe 3 by 2 inches, and it's kind of this gel, and it's got a little metal disc in it. And I'm going to squeeze the little metal disc, and I want you to watch what happens to the liquid inside when I do it. You got to press it kind of hard. Okay. What you can see is a crystal growing inside. And what did I say it was? Sodium acetate? Is that what it was? And this thing that I have in my hand is now 120 degrees.
130.
Well, 130 is what the 120 is what the guy said. And 130 is what the website that explained how sodium acetate works. It's still soft, but it is super, super hot. But the really cool thing is to put it back, you boil it. So this, the sodium acetate is super cooling the liquid. And if you disturb it with the clicking of this piece of metal, it comes out of supercooling state and solidifies at room temperature.
And is endothermic in that process, thereby giving off heat.
Yeah, so when you boil it in hot water, it all becomes clear again, and then you can do it again. And you can also put them in the freezer and make them into ice packs. They're
the way I think
expensive.
of it is that chemical in its fluid state is storing energy from the boiled water, even though when it's cooled down, that energy is still contained within the liquid molecules, which are bouncing all over. But when you activate it with that clicker, it turns to a solid because it's been super cooled, and it gives off heat in that process when it turns to a solid.
This is the URL, but if you can find it cheaper or something like it cheaper, I would go for it because they're super expensive on the website. They talked me into buying a couple of them, a neck pack and a backpack, a thing that goes across your back, because it was like close to half price buying it at the show. But yeah, it's really, really nice. Anyway, I thought that was cool. This isn't hard though. I thought I remembered it being pretty hard when it was done.
I thought it was like a hard gel.
It's not hard at all. This is still bendy, Steve.
Oh, it wasn't that bendy before.
Yeah, maybe that's part. So it lasts longer and longer and longer the more you do it. So the first time it only lasts about 15 minutes. They say when you've got it fully, in shape, it's about an hour. So, okay, it gets hard once it's completely cool. So, yeah. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. We will be talking about that for in a while, few weeks probably. So let's see. I think we are ready to go. What do you think, Steve?
Did you do what do we call it?
Please don't ask me an audio check.
Roll call?
I didn't do roll call. Well, did
Alan's
anybody
not
call
here.
for roll call? It's anarchy without Alan. We got no controls. All right, we've got Aaliyah and Brett and Kevin and Frank and Jill and Ed and John and Sandy and Zoe from England. And let's see, is Rose in the house? I don't see her yet, but she'll probably sneak in later. All right. The wheels are coming off, right? Proper room. All right, Ed. Good job.
Mr.
Good job.
Ed came through.
It's just not the same without Al. Oh, I wonder if he's having time change problems. We might run into that.
Could be.
You know what? Steve, do a toot and a tweet that we change times
on a. Well, I was gonna. You want to direct to him?
No, to the general everybody that we change time, so it's starting now.
Okay.
I think you put it in one of your things though, so you don't have to if you don't want to. All right. Ooh, black fingers. That's you. Okay, here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeed.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, March 19th, 2023, and this show number 932. Well, I'm excited to be back with the live audience. I'm excited to have most of my voice back, and it's the real me now. NCF. 5.5 foot plastic duck. Oh, good. Thanks, Kevin. All right. Let's see. I did work on the Grumpy's macro today, but I didn't get very far. Link. And there's a beta of Hindenburg out that I've asked them to please fix the focus problem that causes us to need this elaborate macro. And they said, yeah, we'll think about it. Anyway, here we go. I love being on the Clockwise podcast, and this week's episode was my favorite so far. I don't know what it was, but sometimes, the chemistry just clicks. It was hosted by the usual suspects, Micah Sargent and Dan Morin, and had guest Lisa Schmeiser. She's been on loads of times, but I never got to meet her before. I was never on at the same time. She was as delightful as I had hoped. Now, the format of Clockwise is always 4 guests, 4 topics. Our topics this week were how we display and enjoy our photos, celebrating Digital Cleanup Day, software we use begrudgingly, and our device replacement strategies. Now, that last one was actually from Jill from the North Woods. She came up with the question for the show. Now, before we recorded, Micah asked Lisa and me to add our Mastodon accounts to the show notes so they could tag us when they posted the show. I thought it was interesting that they didn't ask for our Twitter accounts. They actually already had them. But you know what? Nobody batted an eye when they said, hey, give us your Mastodon accounts. Things are hopping over at Mastodon. Anyway, you can find this episode of Clockwise at relay.fm/clockwise and look for episode number 494. And of course, there's a link in the show notes. Oh, Mike's here. Hey, Mike. I was telling the audience I did work on the macro a little bit today. What I'm doing is I'm starting with your original version, and I'm going to I'm going through it. One of the problems with Keyboard Maestro is you can't actually see 2 macros at once. So I used CleanShot X to do a scrolling capture. So it's like 95 pages long in one long PNG, but I can scroll it side by side with Keyboard Maestro and trying to go line by line to go, okay, what's different? So anyway, hopefully we will get there. All right, I need to see the old chit chat. This one. All right, here we go. I'm learning more about Keyboard Maestro, though. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna beat this. In this week's episode of Chit Chat Across the Pond, it's another episode of Programming by Stealth, and Bart walks us through how to create, add to, and extract from arrays using Bash. It's a very light episode, which I managed to drag out longer by making him slow down and dig into the syntax used for arrays. Now, it's not just me being dense this time. There are squirrely brackets, square brackets, single quotes, double quotes, and the good old octothorpe thrown in for some extra fun. So the syntax is pretty confusing, and I think by repetition, I may have gotten to the point where now, looking at his show notes, I would be able to play in his making. Oh, geez. Don't wing it. Don't wing it. Don't wing it. I may have gotten to the point where now looking at his show may have gotten to the point where if I'm looking at his show notes, I could create bash arrays and have a chance of getting all of that syntax correct. By the way, it looks like we're probably going to do another Programming by Stealth this coming weekend because of some scheduling problems. And so you only have a week to get the challenge done before next week's show. You can find Bart's fabulous tutorial show notes in the your podcatcher, of course, and the links are in our show notes. Nope, that's not. You just said the same thing twice. You can find for this episode. As always, you can find a link in the show notes to Bart's fabulous tutorial show notes for Programming by Stealth. Wing people. This is the fun part. Diagnosing the problems is the fun part. All right. What do we have next? Ooh, let's talk about MacStock Expo, shall we? Who's going to MacStock Expo, everybody?
Woo! Spring break.
That was Steve saying yes. Spring break. Woo-hoo. All right, Brett will be there. Kevin might go. Oh, that would be fun. Jill will be there. Yay. Oh,
be there, Kevin.
Shoot. John's going to be there? You know, somebody pointed out that about a third of the people at MacStock Expo are NosillaCast castaways, but no, probably not that high, but still. You should go, Kurt. It's so fun. So fun. Martine is going to be there, so that's always interesting. Oh, there's always Brett telling us that.
Yeah,
Brett can confirm Martine.
User.
Yep. All right, listen to this. I'm going to talk about this. I am thrilled to tell you that my favorite conference of the year, MacStock Expo, is taking place July 22nd and 23rd this year in Woodstock, Illinois, as always, just north of Chicago, and I will be one of the speakers. I haven't been in a few years for obvious reasons, so I'm super excited to get to go again. Weekend and single day passes are available now. It's $299 for a weekend pass and $159 if you can only go for one day. I highly recommend you go for, if you're going to bother going, make it both days because the evenings hanging out with fellow Apple heads are just fabulous. You get lunch both days, a limited edition MacStock 7 t-shirt, and a free digital pass to rewatch the sessions. Now, if you're flying out, don't book your flights just yet because Barry Falk is going to come on the show to explain why you might want to fly in a day early. You can learn more about the conference at macstockconferenceandexpo.com. And of course, there's a link in the show notes. So far, I think 6 or 7 people in the live audience have already said that they are going to MacStock Expo. So if you want to meet the people that I'm always talking about in the live show, you should go yourself. All right. You might camp. That's interesting. Oh, yeah, that would be fun for Jill to get to meet everybody here. All right. Let's see. I'm going to do copy the link. Chapter mark. Kevin says save. I don't know if I did that. Come on. Isn't working now?
Yeah. What is the theme this year, Allison?
Learn.
Learn.
That's like the best one for me. I don't know. I mean, I could think of 1,000 things to talk about for that. It's 90 minutes from your house. That would be fun if you went, Kevin. All right. Here we go. This week, Steve and I made our annual short trek to the CSUN Assistive Tech Conference in Anaheim, California. I think the first time we went to this was at the invitation of Donald Burr, and every year possible we've been attending. In March of 2020, it was the first thing we didn't do as the pandemic hit. Missing 3 of these was very sad, so we were really happy to get to go back this year. The conference is a week of in-depth sessions, but we actually just go on the last day and go to the exhibit halls. It's not a huge show, but for a one-day experience, it's just right. In a few hours, we got 8 interviews, and they were all gold. Now, gold for me defines that the person knew what they were talking about, could explain it articulately, they were enthusiastic about what they were talking about, and the product seemed interesting to me. A couple of them aren't really accessible tech things, but they're still really good interviews. Now, as usual, I'll be doling out these interviews over time rather than inundating you with them over time. No, that doesn't make any sense. A couple of them aren't really accessible, but they're still really good interviews. As usual, I'll be doling out these interviews over time rather than inundating you with them all at once. Now, keep in mind that while you'll be able to hear the audio in the show today, if you have the gift of sight, you can also follow the link in the show notes to Steve's video recording of the interview. Now, I made sure before each interview, I told the person, pretend I'm blind, in hopes that they would be able to describe everything they were showing to me, so the audio is nearly as helpful as the video. Let's hear the first interview from the CSUN Assistive Tech Conference. None dating, is that allowed? What is wrong with him? Was he dropped on his head as a child? Oh, I already did that. Okay. Right now I'm gonna. By the way, Steve, I put a little note in the one that you haven't published yet about the hiking cane. I put a note in what you wrote. I added the price. And I got to remember next week to say the price.
In the body blog post?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Assistive Tech Conference. We're at the CSUN Assistive Technology Conference in Anaheim, California, and I'm going to start out my interviews with Mike May from Good Maps. How are you doing today, Mike?
Doing fantastically, having a great time, because for the first time I can actually explore the exhibit hall independently with outside assistance.
God, he was such a great interview. That was the first person we interviewed, and he just rocked it, just walked right into it.
Yeah, he was very good. You can tell he's done this a few times.
Yeah, apparently. All right, I'm going to say a little bit of stuff right afterwards.
Nice meeting you, Allison. Thanks for stopping by.
Well, after the interview, Mike told us that we should have come the day before because Stevie Wonder was there. Mike explained that he and Stevie go way back, so he was able to show him around, which was great fun for him. I was chatting with Shelley Brisbane about the show afterwards, and she said, well, of course, Stevie Wonder always comes to CSUN. How did I not know that? Anyway, I guess he likes being up to date on all the advances in assistive tech as much as the next person. Alrighty.
Probably we don't know that because we always go on just one of the days, and I don't think
the fact that I just don't remember anybody ever telling me. I think Shelley may have told me her story about him once before, but
all right.
I don't know. Oh, no. Chapter. Oh, and I want to erase this note for after. Yeah, I didn't write that. That won't make any sense.
Oh, Aaliyah points out it's been 4 years since she was introduced to the podcast, and it was at CSUN.
Okay. Well, look at that. I guess I
Right.
should go to more accessible tech conferences.
Yeah.
Meet fun people. Yeah, it's kind of funny. We don't seem to see the same person twice very often. We just meet new friends each time. It was, like I said, it was Donald Burr the first time. Oh gosh, so many people. All the names are disappearing from my head while I try to copy and paste.
Droz?
Deweese. Yeah, he's actually online right now and he's not in the chat room, but he's been here before. Yeah. Why am I just blanking on everybody's name? Oh, well. Not what I'm supposed to be working on right now. Okay, here we go. Okay. Sip and drink. There's been a lot of very justified kerfuffle about a recent article by Joanna Stern in the Wall Street Journal regarding a relatively easy method for someone to shoulder surf to see your 4-digit passcode on your phone and from there be able to steal your entire Apple ID. Now, Android users have the same problem, by the way. It's with a PIN, a bad actor with your phone can change your... Why don't you just read what it says? Why do you start vamping? I seem to just be in the mood to make up sentences, and that's not how we. I took this photograph behind me, by the way. By the way, it's important to note that Android users unfortunately have the same problem. With the PIN, a bad actor with your phone can change your Google account password as well. Now, just in case you haven't heard about the issue, I'll briefly describe the method on iOS and the repercussions. That'll give you a solution that may be easier for you than some other solutions you might have heard about. On iOS devices, you can use a passcode or password to unlock your phone, and additionally use biometrics with Touch ID or Face ID. The passcode defaults to 4 digits, but you can also choose to make it 6 digits, or you can choose to use an alphanumeric password. If you use a long password to protect your phone, it's unlikely that someone looking over your shoulder could determine what that password is. But a short numerical code, especially 4 digits, is incredibly easy to ascertain. Let's say someone learns your code and then subsequently steals your phone. Now, here's the discovery that Joanna Stern reported on. She said, if you open settings on your phone and then tap on your avatar at the top and go into Apple ID, iCloud Plus, Media and Purchases. From there, go into Password and Security, and at the top, you'll see Change Password. On every system I have ever used in my entire life, the option to change password requires knowledge of the current password, but not on iOS. Instead of being prompted for the current password, you're only asked for the code to unlock the phone. So think about that. You've gone to all this trouble to use a long, strong password to protect your Apple ID, but someone with knowledge of the simple code to unlock your iPhone or iPad now owns you. It's a reasonable assumption that your Apple ID is probably also your main email address. Guess what goes to your email address? Password resets on other services. So now someone can change your Apple ID password, log into it on iCloud.com, go to your banking website, and change your password there too, because they get the password reset sent to them, not to you. If you use iCloud Keychain to store your passwords, they now have all of those without even bothering to change them. They literally will have stolen the crown jewels just by knowing the passcode to your phone. Now, I think often about the 4-digit passcodes in other contexts. Have you ever used the same code that you have on your phone to maybe disarm your house alarm? Is it the same code as on your ATM? Is it the same code on your gym locker? If any of these are the same, it's a pretty easy thing to steal even more than your Apple ID access. All right, enough alarming talk. What's the best thing we can do to protect ourselves? Well, the best thing you can do is change your phone's passcode to a long alphanumeric password. The longer, more complicated it is, the harder it is for someone to see what you're typing and remember it and be able to put it back in later after they steal your phone. Now, while this is definitely the best thing to do, it may not be practical for you, or you may weigh the probability of this problem happening to you against how annoying that tiny keyboard is to type on accurately, and maybe choose not to use an alphanumeric password. Another option is to choose a 6-digit passcode instead of the default of 4 digits. While 6 digits is a little harder to watch and memorize than 4, it's not that much harder. The shoulder surfer can also see before you start typing that there are 6 dots to fill in rather than 4, so they can be ready to watch for all 6. Okay, the numeric passcode, too easy to spot. The alphanumeric password may be too hard to type, but there's actually a middle ground. Turns out you can create a passcode of indeterminate length. And yes, I heard it, Tom. If you go into settings and choose Face ID and passcode, then use Change Passcode. You'll be asked to enter your current passcode/password. Once you get past that prompt, it will offer you 3 options: custom alphanumeric code, custom numeric code, 4-digit numeric code. After that, you enter a numeric code after you choose custom numeric code, you choose a code of any length you choose, the longer, of course, being better. The cool part about the indeterminate length of numeric code is how it changes the look of your lock screen. Instead of showing 4 dots for a 4-digit passcode or 6 dots for a 6-digit passcode, it just says enter passcode with a text box under it. No one but you knows how many digits you have in your code. Now, clearly, a long numeric code is not as good as an alphanumeric passcode, or password, I should say. The same reason it's hard to type on the alphanumeric keyboard is the reason it's hard for someone to figure out what you're typing. But for me, It's a good compromise because I find it incredibly difficult to type on that tiny alphanumeric keyboard. And as it turns out, I'm not in a lot of environments where someone could shoulder surf me. The bottom line is that there's a vulnerability we didn't know about before in the way Apple and Google protect our most precious password. Evidently left open this easy method to reset your password because so many people forget their Apple ID passwords. Maybe it was a lot of work for Apple to deal with people saddened by the loss of access to all of their data. I wish those of us with a good password hygiene, such as using third-party password managers, could turn this feature off. And I put feature in air quotes. Remember, iCloud keychain passwords are vulnerable if someone knows the passcode to your phone. And that's why I say I want to be able to turn this off because I use a third-party password manager. I hope that whatever you do type your passcode or password into your phone in a way that no one can see what you're typing. Or you choose an alphanumeric option. Yeah, but that it doesn't matter. The touch targets are too small on the alphanumeric keyboard. You could definitely do numbers. Steve, he's talking about something slightly different.
Got it. Yeah. So you have the full keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those targets are pretty small.
Yeah. Bart and I ended up talking about it in Security Bits at the end, or at the beginning of Security Bits, and there was something I was going to say brilliant about. I mean, the feature is that those are so small that it's harder to steal from somebody. Mm-hmm. But the flip side is that it's also harder to actually do anything with it, right?
And harder to see over a shoulder.
It's harder to see, right? But the flip side is it's also harder to type.
Correct. Yeah. That's always the trade-off of security, convenience versus security, right?
Yeah. Bart said that the probability that somebody's going to lose access to all of their data because they don't know their password is higher than the probability that their phone gets stolen. So it's probably the right choice.
Yeah.
23 characters, and you're on that little tiny keyboard, huh? Maybe you have
23 characters for your iPhone? Wow.
But he says he uses numbers.
Still.
But do you have little tiny, like children size hands or something when you're
Wow.
I thought you'd laugh more at that, Steve.
I know where you're going.
You heard it, right?
SNL.
Yeah, you missed another.
Me?
I said another one. Yeah, you missed one. What am I looking for? Adding keyboard. Oh, all right. Get ready to go to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about Keyboard Maestro for a while. Oh, Wheels is here, but he's in the wrong chat room.
I don't see him. Maybe he's in the sidebar.
Yeah, I don't see him. General discussion.
Oh, he's in the sidebar. He's just not in the live show listen.
Oh, she's saying he's up in general discussion.
Oh.
Maybe somebody can go over to general discussion and tell him.
I don't see him there either.
Huh. I'm afraid to go in there. I'll mess something up. Oh, you did that. Thanks, Andy. How'd you notice he was over there? Again. What?
I did this again. Forget how to get out of this mode.
Yes, that's why I didn't go over there because I could never get back.
Oh boy.
Oh, you had a pop-up from him. Okay.
Is it just this? Is it?
Me too. Yep. See, I'm smarter than everybody. I didn't go in there.
You didn't go in.
Sandy knows how to get back out, right?
I can't see the comments, so if they're giving me suggestions.
All right. Good luck with that. I'm going to start recording.
Right. Found it.
Mute. That was weird. A few weeks ago, Bob Cassidy taught us some tips about how to get Keyboard Maestro to do our bidding. He was helping me with a specific macro that needed to be triggered on a Finder item. At the end of his explanation, he wrote this. I think the ideal way to trigger this macro would be by right-clicking on the file and choosing from the contextual menu. In the back of my mind, I thought Keyboard Maestro had that function, but after investigation, I don't see a way to do it. If anyone knows how to do that, I would appreciate knowing how. Well, I went on my own quest to see if I could figure out how to do it for him. I got really close to solving the problem, and then with some help help from a couple of people, I was able to figure it out, but also Bob came at it from a slightly different angle and we converged on a solution. So I'm going to start with the path I went down, and then we'll veer on over into Bob's method and take us over the finish line for his side. If you'd like to fast forward a bit or read ahead if you're on the blog, I've written out the steps in an easy to read list. Actually, I don't need to say the blog. If you'd like to fast forward a bit, I've written out the steps. If you'd like to fast forward a bit, I've got the steps in an easy to read list at the end. But what's the fun in an easy to read list of steps? Let's go the long way around to get to the solution. All right, so we got a Keyboard Maestro macro that acts on a file or a folder in the Finder. My particular macro acts on PNGs in the Finder. Instead of having to remember a keystroke or going all the way up to the Keyboard Maestro context menu in the menu bar, we want to just right-click on the file and choose the macro from the Quick Action menu. Now, before we get too far into the solution, I want to warn you that Apple uses a lot of different names for the exact same thing, for quick actions, and it's going to get really confusing. I'm going to go out of my way to add to the confusion by pointing out all of the names each time they change. That's going to be helpful, I figure. All right, inside Keyboard Maestro, if you select a Finder macro, one that operates in the Finder, you can select File, Export, and one of the options is Export as Finder Quick Action. That sounds like exactly what we want. By the way, there is an export menu available if you just right-click on a macro, but oddly, that export menu does not include the Export as Finder Quick Action option. You have to do it from the File menu. So the Keyboard Maestro export option calls it a quick action, but you are immediately asked, what do you want to name the saved service? Okay, we now have two names for it, Quick Action and Service. Once you have the service saved, you still have to add it to the Quick Action menu. You get a pop-up that explains that to enable this Quick Finder action, Finder Quick Action, you need to select Customize from the Quick Action menu. To do this, we need to right-click on a file in the Finder, and in the menu that pops up, choose Quick Action. You'll see a list of your quick actions, and at the bottom of the list, it will say Customize, because you probably won't see the one that you just created there. This Customize request launches system settings, or system preferences if you're in pre-Ventura, to privacy and security extensions. Wait a minute, are they services? Are they quick actions? Or are they extensions? Within the extensions menu, you'll see actions, but they're not quick. Ignore those. Go to the bottom of the list and choose Finder. Within Finder, we get a section that says select quick actions to show in Finder. And in this list, you can finally see the quick actions you've already installed. You'll also see the one you exported from Keyboard Maestro. Check the box next to your Finder, macro, quick action, service extension's name, whatever you want to call it. All right, now from the Finder, if you right-click on a file and choose Quick Action from the menu, you can choose your Keyboard Maestro macro. That's fantastic. If this is the first time you've added a Keyboard Maestro macro to the Quick Action menu, you'll be asked to grant the Finder permission to control Keyboard Maestro. Now, that makes a lot of sense because I'm really glad that apps can't just suddenly start running Keyboard Maestro macros without me knowing about it, and the Finder is sandboxed in the same way. Once I had my macro in the Quick Action menu, I'd granted Finder permissions to run it. I figured I was golden. I right-clicked on a PNG and chose my macro from the Services Quick Action menu, and I was greeted with an error. It said, the action Run Apple script encountered an error. Keyboard Maestro engine got an error. Do script found no macros with a matching name. Macros must be enabled and in macro groups that are enabled and currently active. Well, I knew that the macros were enabled and that they were in groups that were enabled, but I didn't know what this active thing meant. When I first wrote the blog post right up to where I am in the story, it turns out the author of Keyboard Maestro, Peter Lewis, actually wrote a comment on the post, and he pointed me in the right direction to solve the error. So if you saw this blog post, it is completely different after Peter Lewis helped me. But before we get into that part of Today I Learned, what is this stuff about Apple script in the error message? I never wrote any Apple script. At the bottom of that error window, it had the option to show workflow, which opened Automator. I don't remember creating an Automator workflow, or did I? So show workflow was in that window, and it opens the services menu inside my user library folder with a workflow named after my Keyboard Maestro macro. So my macro is a service, is an extension, is a quick action, is a workflow. Got it. Okay. So opening this automator workflow revealed an Apple script that was trying to run my Keyboard Maestro macro. I found it really ironic that Keyboard Maestro created an Apple script for me, because I've been trying to use Keyboard Maestro instead of learning AppleScript, because I've been worried that AppleScript might go away sometime soon, as Apple seems to have lost interest as they're flirting around with shortcuts. And yet here Keyboard Maestro goes creating an AppleScript for me. Well, I'm looking at this AppleScript and I haven't learned AppleScript yet. So I didn't know why the workflow AppleScript service quick action was failing. I sent Bob everything I did to get this point, and I asked him if he knew what was wrong. Well, as it turns out, nothing was wrong with the AppleScript. Keyboard Maestro's developer, Peter, suggested I open the macro in question in Keyboard Maestro and run the interactive help option under the help menu. Well, learning about this interactive help menu made me really happy, because I had a problem with this macro, and knowing that I needed this interactive help menu was really cool because the tool is really cool. If you select the macro that's giving you trouble, interactive help asks you what's wrong. The two most interesting choices are something unexpected is happening or something expected is not happening. I chose the second option, and it went through a series of tests on the macro. For the tests that succeed, you get a happy check. But for the ones that fail, you get a sad red X, which then takes you to another step to diagnose the problem. When I ran it on my macro, it failed one of the tests, and it pointed me to this active thing, just like it said in the error message. At the top of a macro, it turns out you define the triggers that make it go. And that's the active part. What I didn't realize is these triggers, they're not options. They are required to make the macro active. Completely did not understand that. When I originally created the macro with Bob's guidance, I had the trigger set to the status menu is selected. So that's where you go up into the menu bar and you click on the Keyboard Maestro macro or the Keyboard Maestro icon, and you select the quick action from the quick action menu there. But if I'm calling this macro using a quick action, wait, did I say quick action just now? And you select the quick action from the quick, nope, I did. So that's where you go. So that's where you go up to the menu bar and click on Keyboard Maestro, and you choose the status menu in order to get to your macro. That's the way I was doing it before. But if I'm trying to call the macro using a quick action, then the status menu is not selected, so the quick action simply cannot run. It's not active. It just can't go because it doesn't have that status menu selected. Now, as I explain it, this kind of seems obvious, but I hadn't really given much thought to the importance of the triggers until the interactive help menu guided me through the problem. Once I fixed the trigger to make the action active for quick action to be allowed to run it, it worked. Now, before I received help from Peter on this, remember I said I sent Bob everything I did up to and including the error about the macro being active. I'm not sure he actually read everything that I sent, because I gave him all the steps and screenshots and everything, because he came at this from a different angle, and he arrived at essentially the same spot with a solution that was a bit more simple. The one interesting bit in the auto-generated AppleScript code that I got out of Keyboard Maestro was towards the end. It says very simply, and AppleScript is great because it's super readable. It says, tell application Keyboard Maestro engine, do script, big long ASCII set of characters with parameter R, and then it says end tell. So it just says, tell the application to run this script and then end telling it. So this part of the script actually kind of made sense. It's telling AppleScript to tell Keyboard Maestro to run my script. And I even knew what this big, long ASCII set of characters was. I don't know if you remember, but last week when I told you about Dan Thomas's awesome Keyboard Maestro macro that lets you do version control on your macros, I explained that the exported macros have your human readable name that you created for your macro, but then they have appended to that a big, long ASCII set of characters that they explained was the UUID for the macro from Keyboard Maestro. I know that's a lot of info I'm asking you to keep track of in your head from last time and this time, but I was pretty sure that UUID is the only way you could access the macro from within AppleScript. I'm wrong about that, but at the time, that's what I thought. When I was talking to Bob, I didn't understand what this parameter R was that was created. And Peter, in his comment on the blog post, explained it to me. So this says do script and the big ASCII character code with parameter R. He says with parameter value is replacing the trigger value token when the macro is executed. That's how the file you have selected in the Finder gets passed to the macro. So that's cool. One more thing from Peter. He explained that the UUID could be replaced by the macro's name. So you could write it as do script, quote, macro name. That's pretty cool. Would be a little more human readable later. You wouldn't have to remember where that UUID came from. So now let's switch over to Bob's method. Bob's solution was to start from Automator, add a run AppleScript action, and type in those same very simple lines that were in the auto-generated script with the, tell application keyboard maestro engine and do script, blah, blah, blah. His script worked as well. But I had a question. The auto-generated AppleScript knew which UUID called the right script only because I had exported it from the macro I wanted to run. How did Bob know the UUID of the macro if he didn't go through that export step? I knew it was a UUID because of the version control macro from Dan Thomas, but in Bob's explanation, he didn't call it a UUID. He referred to it as a macro script ID number designation thingy, which I really liked. Bob's explanation of how he knew the UUID taught me another new trick that makes this whole roundabout explanation worth all the time it's taken to explain. Remember, I hadn't paid much attention to the trigger part of using Keyboard Maestro macros. One of the reasons I haven't dug into triggers too far is because there are so many options on how to trigger them. You can use a hotkey. You can have it run when a USB device is plugged in. You can have a macro trigger when your audio output changes or when a volume is mounted. The list goes on and on and on. Bob explained that one of the many options is to trigger macros via a script. If you choose the script option, you can select AppleScript. This automatically creates an AppleScript for you that says, tell application Keyboard Maestro engine to do script, and it shows you the UUID. Remember, the UUID is also known as macro script ID number designation thingy. This is exactly the AppleScript that you can export as a quick action, as I described earlier. Now, Bob doesn't use the script itself, but he just used that script to find the UUID, and then he put it in his very simple script. So I walked you down these two different paths, again, to demonstrate how much I'm learning by working on silly scripts like checking the alpha checkbox in the Save As dialog box for preview. I learned from Bob, and now I learned from the developer himself. How cool is that? Peter rocks. Now, the only problem with my storytelling is that you didn't have a concise step-by-step process to turn a Keyboard Maestro macro into a quick action, and I promised I would boil it down for you here at the end. Step 1. Write the Keyboard Maestro macro that works on a Finder item. Step 2, set a trigger that you know will be active. Step 3, with the macro selected, select File, Export, Export as Finder Quick Action. Open System Settings or System Preferences and navigate to Privacy and Security, Extensions, Finder, and tick the checkbox next to your newly created quick action. Save your service in Automator, and then to test, right-click on an appropriate file in the Finder and choose Quick Actions and select your macro quick action. If Finder asks for permission to run Keyboard Maestro, say yes. If anything goes wrong, check out the fabulous interactive help in Keyboard Maestro's help menu. Now, I promise not to talk about Keyboard Maestro every week, but I was so excited to learn even more about this amazing automation tool that I felt compelled to share. Also, if I write about it, I can always find the solution online when I forget how to do this. I can't tell you how many times I have actually Googled for a solution and found the solution at podfeet.com. Whew. You've been traumatized by it? It's going to need a trigger warning. Oh, nice, Ian.
Great comment.
Oh, Ian, we talked about you in Programming by Stealth this week. Okay, I found a couple of big weird typos I introduced. I rewrote this ending. It was kind of clumsy. I saw an 8 here. Save. There it is.
Yeah, quick action 8.
Yeah, that was supposed to be a separate thing. Do you see like ampersand quat in like right above concise steps to success? Does it say do script and have quotes? or does
No.
it show the?
No, it just shows the highlighted text like it's code.
Yeah, but read do script out to me. Read that line to me.
The whole line, the automatically creates an Apple script for you that says to tell application keyboard maestro engine to do script and shows you the
Are
UUID.
those in quotes?
No, it's in a highlighted background text.
No, tell application is the word keyboard maestro engine. Is that inside quotes?
No. But it's in highlighted text.
Not there. Go right below that. There should be a gray box.
Oh, down below. Tell application. Yes. Do script your UUID goes here.
Yeah. Is your UUID, is that in quotes?
That's in quotes. Yes.
Thank you. Just trying to figure out if you're seeing, because I'm seeing the ASCII for some reason, or whatever it's called, the those encoding words.
Yeah. That's
that's fine, Sandy. There's another mistake in there, but that one's just going to have to do. All right. We'll live with it. Make sure that didn't become a draft. And go back here. And now it's time for support the show. Yeah, it takes me about 15 minutes. Or sorry.
Peter's the developer.
Yeah, Peter Lewis.
Yeah.
Ian, unfortunately, it takes me a lot of vamping. You'll hear me say, who was it who said, or who posted his homework in GitHub, and I couldn't remember. And then all of a sudden you'll hear me yell, Ian Lessing, because I finally found it. All right, here we go. Okay, pledge break. Did Frank ever make it in?
He did. Well, at least he didn't make it in the live show listen, but he's listening to the show. He's not. Yeah, he's not texting.
Yeah. Frank is here. Okay, I don't see him chatting in the live show.
I think he was having trouble getting into it. The chat.
All right, pledge break. I always think of Frank with pledge break. One of the things I don't do is pay attention to who stops supporting the show through Patreon after a while. I figure, people have their reasons, and I don't want to feel bad about it and see somebody left. And I don't want them to feel bad either because I noticed and maybe I'd feel compelled to say something. That'd be terrible. So I just don't look at it. Maybe they've hit hard times, or maybe they've just moved on to other shows. I know that's shocking to hear, but it can happen. Even though I don't watch it and I don't worry about it, I do know that if we don't get new patrons from time to time, the funding for the podcast does slow down. And that's happening right now. I can assure you that the cost of making the show doesn't slow down to go with it. I seem to always be able to find a paid-for tool to make the sound better, to be able to supply enhancements to the feed, and to buy software and hardware to review for the show. So if you've been thinking that everyone else is carrying the weight of supporting the show, consider the value you get out of the podcast. And if it's worth $1 or $2 to you, head on over to podfeed.com/Patreon and become a patron of the fine arts.
Fine arts. Right. Wow.
Well, I might as well have some fun with it, right? All right. We're getting close to needing chapter marks.
Is this a hair on fire? Does he start off with a hair on fire?
Oh, it is hair on fire.
Baseband, yes.
Oh, yeah. It is all bad. Security bits music. Oh, are we dear? And then we'll bring in Bart and Allison. Allison here. Break it down. I love how fast this is.
Oh,
so watch. What's that?
Just looking for Plink.
Okay, but so that's the Plink right there. Watch how long it takes me to split this. That it's done. The whole thing has been completed. That used to take 30 seconds before I had this machine.
Nice.
Did you want to hear Plink?
Sure.
Are you going to pay attention when I play it, or are you going to make me play it again because you forgot to listen? Okay, here we go. Blink. You hear it?
I didn't hear it. Could you just play that again?
Liar. Oh, yeah. Ian, you got to get Keyboard Maestro. It's so cool. It was pretty funny. Go ahead.
When you line things up, why don't you just drop a line, like put the cursor line. Ooh, what's going on there?
I just did undo to see what you're suggesting because I'm looking for
Put
easier
that
ways.
cursor line, that white line, right at the beginning of where you talk.
Okay,
and then move the other line, move the other audio down below so it lines up with that.
Because it's not actually important where to line me up.
Well, but both of them, both you and Bart, the combination below.
Okay, but I want you to look at this is the natural spot that Bart starts talking for me. And notice that I've lined those two up, but these two are not lined up. That's the lag. Gotcha. So what I'm trying to do is actually do those two because I'm going to delete this one. Whoop, I'm going to delete this one. And I'm going to delete this one. But now here's the annoying part. When I slide it up, it won't stay in the same spot. I'll have to move it around anyway. See it? Oh, I held the shift key down. It stayed still.
Yeah, that looked pretty good.
Did you know it did that, Jill? If you hold the shift key when you move a, come on, here we go. When you move a track, it stays still. As long as I was holding the shift key, so I held the shift key down and I slide it down, I'm trying to move it side to side and it won't do it. That's kind of good. But we have to look at both of these and listen to where they are. All right. Now we need to judge the music, Steve.
Yep.
Fine arts. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Security Bits with Bart Busschots. How you doing today, Bart?
Hi, I'm doing.
So that was too long, and he's going to talk over me back there, so I'm going to slide it a little bit. See, there's no right answer.
Yeah, you end up having to adjust it after the fact.
Bits with Bart Busschots. How you doing today, Bart?
Hi, I'm doing good. It's a bit of a strange day because due to terrible rain here, imagine that. I did my cycle in the morning, so my timetable is all over the place. And then you guys have decided to do daylight savings time too early or something. So we're recording at a different time, and I'm normally off the bike, but I'm not just off the bike. And there's daylight in my office while I'm talking to you. This is weird.
Yeah, I'm not used to seeing you without, blue lighting making you look pale.
See, there's a window behind me. Look, there's an outside.
There is daylight. That's crazy. I would like the record to show that the United States, by a vast majority, said, please get rid of daylight saving time altogether.
And the Europeans have a very similar point of view, but the politicians can't quite seem to get it done. And most annoyingly, Brexit is probably going to kill it for Ireland. Because with Northern Ireland, we need to get agreement with our friends across the water. And I'm not sure we can agree the sky is blue at the moment.
Well, our problem is pretty interesting, and I don't disagree with it. Well, how the sun reacts by the hour has to do with where you are within a time zone.
Yes.
So if your state is on the western edge of a time zone, you would want it to stay one way. But if your state is mostly on the eastern side of a time zone, you would want it to go the other way. So the states can't agree on which one to pick because we got to pick one, right?
You got to pick one.
Got to pick a time.
Yeah.
I think we should do what India did and go on the half hour.
No.
Oh, yeah, that really works.
Oh.
Well, no, all of India is on one time zone. They took the two time zones and they split it in half. And why don't we do that?
Well, you're talking about time zones or daylight saving time?
So get rid of daylight saving. The problem with get rid of daylight saving time is it's not really get rid of daylight saving time. It's get rid of changing in and out of daylight saving time is what people voted
pick one
for.
or the other. Just stay with it. Right?
You got to pick one or the other, but it's bad for some states to be one way and it's bad for other states to be the other way, right? And maybe districts within a state have arguments about it. So if we did it by the half hour, it'll probably suck for everybody or something. I don't know.
You mean pick a common time that's in between the two?
Yeah.
But still have the time zones.
Everybody just shifts by a half hour. So we do one last shift, but we shift by a half hour instead of an hour. And then we're done.
Then you're off by 30 minutes from all the other time zones in all the other countries.
And that's what India did, and they're fine. India's off by 30 minutes from.
We don't have to deal with it. What if we had to deal? We live there and we had to deal with it every time.
Why is doing math by 8.5 instead of 8 any different? I can't do either one.
You're asking me?
Yeah, I can't do either one. I can't do the 8. I can't do 8. I can't do 3. I can't do subtraction. So why is it harder by 3.5? You can't subtract by 3.5?
I can do it easily by the whole numbers. I would start having trouble with the half hours. I think.
And then there's a part of in Australia. Where is it? Is it Perth? That's off by a quarter of an hour.
No, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Serious? I did not know that.
Yeah, I found that one out when I was working on my time shifter clock.
Frank has a great one. NosillaCast time zone, NST. Nice.
I like it. Wait, so NosillaCast standard time? I like it. Actually, you could go here, timeshifterclock.com. You just use that and you'll know what it is. But if all of the United States was off by a half hour, people would figure it out, right? We are the center of the universe. Bacon Standard Time. Now that's something we could all agree with, right?
Nice, Zoe.
Much as you can, stay packed.
All right, I got to close this show out. It's anarchy. Get rid of or start your. Oh wait, no, not that yet. All right, start counting your chapter mark, Steve.
Uh-oh.
But don't talk. Here we go. All right, that's going to wind us up for this week. It's good to be back in the saddle. Did you know that you can email me at allison@podfeet.com anytime you like? If you have a question or a suggestion, just send it on over. You can follow me on Mastodon at podfeet at chaos.social. Remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com. If you want to join in the fun of the conversation, you can join our Slack community at podfeet.com/Slack, where you can talk to me and all of the other lovely Nosilla castaways, even Bart. You can support the show at podfeet.com/Patreon. Remember, we really do need some new patrons, or a one-time donation at podfeet.com/PayPal. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic Nosilla castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Really drew that one out.
I thought you were going to say Sunday nights at 5 p.m. NosillaCast Standard Time.
Oh, I should have. Oh, should I change it? Should I redo it?
No, you're going to confuse people.
No, I think that'd be hilarious. Subscribe. I should have said, and stay subscribed.
Oh, like the chat bot.
I want to do it.
I think I got.
Hang on, let me see if I can pull it off. I mean, I'll do it as a separate recording. See if I can do it here.
No.
All right. It's NosillaCast Standard Time, right?
Yes.
Timeshifterclock.com isn't loading? I'll look at it in just a second. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. NosillaCast Standard Time and join the friendly and enthusiastic Nosilla castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed.
Oh boy. You're going to get comments on that.
And
you're going to lose your audience. Who knows what time they'll show up?
I don't know. I named my show in a way that no Google juice can ever find it. So why not keep wrecking the time? Let's see how that blends. .com/PayPal. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, there you go. All right. How many chapters you feeling, Steve?
I'm feeling 8, which is a high number. Did I count right?
Yep. I got 8.
Okay.
All right. Book it, Dano.
Book it.
Export. M4A. Pick the right folder. Export. And it's going.
So don't be surprised if you don't get any listeners at the live show next week. Or you get a few early ones. Yeah, Frank
will be there because he knows.
He invented it.
Exactly. All right, it is 5:58. We're actually going to get you out of class on time today. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye, Rose, even though you're not here.
Hope to see you again next week, Frank.
I bet she isn't here because of the time zone.
Yeah. All right.
Goodbye.
Hanging up.
Okay, I'm going to hang up, but I'm going to stay in the chat just